So let's talk about self-kindness. Let's talk about that term. That's not two words we see together. We tend to think of kindness, as you said, something towards other people. So what is self-kindness?
So for me, the way it started, full transparency, it literally started in a nail salon. Like the only thing I could think to do to relax was to go and get a manicure that day because I was so tired and I had to have a little bit of downtime. And when someone is physically touching my hands, I can't do anything else. So it really started in the very traditional ways that people think of, like manicures, bubble bath, downtime. It has evolved in the last 4 to 5 years to include things like setting good boundaries, asking for what I need, asking for help, using my voice, having difficult conversations. There's absolutely a way to say hard things with kindness behind them. And to me, that is now my brand of self-kindness.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. And today our topic is kindness. Now, that may not sound very sexy, but it's lacking in the world today. And the place where its absence is most evident is inside our heads. How often do you talk to yourself using a tone that you would never use with someone else? We treat other people carefully, but with ourselves, anything goes. And if you're a perfectionist, that voice inside your head can drive you until you collapse from exhaustion. Nothing you do is ever good enough. Well, our guest for today can help. Lara Heacock is author of Practical Kindness, 52 Ways to Bring More Compassion, Courage, and Kindness into Your World. She's a life and leadership coach who runs the popular personal development blog, Kind Over Matter. Drawing on nearly 20 years of experience in corporate America, she helps professionals and companies use kindness to end the epidemic of burnout. Welcome, Lara.
Yay. Thank you, Amy. That was quite a mouthful, but I'm like, yeah, that's what I do.
So you've got a tagline, and your tagline is, life gets better when you're kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. Does it really?
In my experience, it does. In my client's experience, it does. My own story comes from hitting my own burnout in that, part of that 20-year in corporate America work and taking on a whole bunch of new things, and one of which was a daily acts of kindness project in 2014. And I just hit the absolute tipping point of too much on my plate, striving to be perfect, doing hashtag all the things. And I just couldn't do anything anymore. And I had to start being kind to myself. And that's, if you could say a before and after in my life, like it's that exact moment that defines it.
So you said something that quite interests me. You started a project that was daily acts of kindness, but you yourself was burning out. How does that work?
So I was working a super stressful commission job. And if anyone's ever worked a commission job, it's pretty much 24/7. Like I was closing deals on my honeymoon. I had just started blogging at the end of 2013. I was in a life coach training program. I'm married. I was trying to maintain a life. And I decided to do this daily act of kindness project for a full year. And about 3 or so months in, I hit a Saturday and I was like, I am so exhausted. I literally can't think of a kind thing to do for someone else. It was crazy.
And so that's what made you switch to think about what I could do kind for myself.
So I started Self-Kind Saturday and I was terrified. I had this whole story and this inner critic going in my head saying, what are they going to think of you? You're supposed to be doing a kind act for someone else. Who are you to take time for yourself? What are you going to do? What are they going to say? All of that stuff. And it's still one of the most amazing things. It's still something people talk about. I still see people using the hashtag Self-Kind Saturday. And it really started my own personal self-kindness journey.
So let's talk about self-kindness. Let's talk about that term. That's not two words we see together. We tend to think of kindness, as you said, something towards other people. So what is self-kindness?
So for me, the way it started, full transparency, it literally started in a nail salon. Like the only thing I could think to do to relax was to go and get a manicure that day because I was so tired and I had to have a little bit of downtime. And when someone is physically touching my hands, I can't do anything else. So it really started in the very traditional ways that people think of, like manicures, bubble bath, downtime. It has evolved in the last 4 to 5 years to include things like setting good boundaries, asking for what I need, asking for help, using my voice, having difficult conversations. There's absolutely a way to say hard things with kindness behind them. And to me, that is now my brand of self-kindness.
So this is a lot more than self-care. This is about treating ourselves the way we treat other people?
Yeah, treating ourselves the way we treat other people, treating ourselves the way that we want to be treated by the world, not Brene Brown often talks about, being a yes person, and then that yes immediately turns into resentment because we don't really want to say yes to all of those things. So part of self-kindness is to really take that step back and say, is this a yes, or is this an obligation that's going to turn into resentment, and maybe just stepping away for a moment before you make that decision. You can give yourself that space to learn that new skill of saying no.
What I really like is you talked about that when you were doing your daily acts of kindness towards other people, everybody, was behind that. You felt good about that. But then when you started to be kind to yourself, you thought, ooh, and you weren't sure whether other people would approve. Why is it then that it is so easy for us to be kind to other people, but we feel really weird about being kind towards ourselves?
I think there's so much, like if you are raised Christian or, mostly any standard religion, there's an aspect of, love thy neighbor, treat someone how you would like to be treated. So I think there's that, very old societal programming. There's, the random acts of kindness. I think that we are, at least somewhat as a culture, if you don't watch too much news, relatively taught to, treat others in the way you'd like to be treated, the golden rule. But we're never taught. There's no context for how to take care of ourselves. It's not taught in schools. It's not taught in churches. It's not a part of any, traditional societal, commercial, religious upbringing. And I think it just becomes so foreign. A lot of us in the US have, really strong puritanical roots, and it's work hard, it's be strong, it's don't be weak, especially for boys, don't let them see that you're weak, don't let them see you sweat. The hustle mentality. I think everything we hear is about burning out and, okay, maybe be nice to other people, but whatever you do with yourself, you just have to be successful.
Yeah, we have to be strong. We don't have to need anyone. We've got to get our lives in order. So the voices inside our head tell us you've got to do all these things. So is that where it comes from? Do we basically repeat the message as from society inside our own heads, but we think it's our own voice?
Yeah, I think that inner critic comes from, for some people it comes from something like as a kid. For some people it takes on a parent's voice or someone in the family of origin. But a lot of times it's just internalized. I wouldn't say that my inner critic is, the voice of anyone particular in my life, but it is a representation of just the way that I grew up, as a human being on the planet, in the 80s and 90s in my formative years. And it is just this go, 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 recognition and achievement. Accomplishment is what gets you loved. Doing well is the way to receive, all of the external accolades and things like that. And, I was never taught to just be proud of myself and to feel value for being a human on this planet. Nobody was. It's not a flaw of anyone. That's how it is.
It is. But one of the things that I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here is, isn't it good that we're taught the hustle and we're taught to achieve? Because having those high standards means that we don't allow ourselves to make mistakes and we keep pushing ourselves. And maybe if we stopped pushing ourselves so hard, our whole lives would collapse, would never get anything done. We couldn't even get the kids to school, would lose our jobs. Surely there's a place for that go, 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 go part of us.
So I have to tell you, that is the number one fear of every high achieving client that I work with. So every leader, every, driven type A overachiever, I'm raising my hand here, that was my fear too. That's why I never slow down. And I promise you that there is a balance. There is a middle ground. I think that we're often conditioned to look at the world in black or white, ones and zeros. If you're either hustling or you're lazy, there is no in between. And the truth is, there's this beautiful, rich territory in between burnout and, ending up on the street and your children never getting to school again. There is so much richness in between there. And what I found and what I found with my clients is that when we do take time to nurture ourselves and to take care of ourselves and to develop our own self-kindness practices, we can actually become more successful, because when you're burned out, you're never doing your best work. I know for me, when I'm running too hard, my work isn't good. I'm not writing my best blog posts. I'm not showing up the best for my clients. But when I am actually making my own self-kindness and my own self-care a priority, or at the very least a piece of my life, the work that I'm doing is so much better. And the better work is what actually takes me further, not the burnout hustle end of things.
Yeah, and I was thinking of some of the ways we try to get that energy to try and fill ourselves up. And first of all, we hope that our partners are going to look after us and fill us up, and that doesn't always help. And the other thing is we turn to food, because that's guaranteed energy. Drink that coffee.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a way to get energy through taking care of yourself. What kind of strategies can people use to fill themselves up from the inside?
So I am a big believer in starting small. So my first step to people is always whatever the smallest step you can take to be successful, that's where you start. For me, on that first day, on a Saturday, it was sitting in a nail salon for 20 minutes so that my hands were physically occupied and I couldn't do anything else. For a lot of people, we start, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we start at the very bottom of the triangle. Are you getting adequate sleep? Are you eating nourishing foods, or are you, grabbing a granola bar and a drive-through snack? Are you drinking water throughout the day? Simple things like that. We don't think about them because for some reason we're human and we think that we can do better. Like we think that we don't need to take care of our food, clothing, and shelter needs, but we do. And a lot of times we just overlook that. You realize it's 4:00 and you're sitting at your desk and you haven't eaten anything since the granola bar on the train that morning. So the very, very smallest thing, which might be start taking 2 bottles of water to work every day. Set a timer on your phone at 11:30 and at 1:30. And if you didn't catch lunch at 11:30, you better catch it at 11:30. So very, very small steps to start to build up the practices of taking care of ourselves.
So what happens when your coworkers at work see you taking breaks, see you taking lunch, and they're still working, and they're like, are you losing it? Are you losing your drive? Because people will look at you and they'll say, why are you doing this? You've got this other stuff to do, are you losing it?
I think it goes to the culture. And, a lot of the work that I do with leaders is I think when we get to that stressed out, burned out, overworked place, we also tend to become micromanagers. We tend to think that we have to do everything and we can't trust these amazing people that we hired because we're perfect and look at me working 23 and a half hours a day. So a lot of times what I've noticed actually is, peers and colleagues relaxing a little bit and noticing, oh, she trusts me now to take on this project. And thank God she's taking a lunch because my one-on-one with her is at 2:00 and she's usually so cranky. And maybe this week it'll be a different experience. So I think that what you named is really accurately describing the fear that we most often have. And what happens is typically the opposite of that.
So what we're doing is we're setting an example to others when we're kind to ourselves.
Yes.
And this ties into, you talk in your book about being a kindness hero. Mm-hmm. What is a kindness hero?
Kindness hero is really that living as an example of what you believe. So for me, what are my values? How do I go to bed at night knowing I did the right thing? And I have a perfect example. We were talking a little before the recording about all the snow. I live in the Philadelphia area. I'm looking at like half a foot of snow right now. And I have an elderly neighbor, and I looked out yesterday and she was out there shoveling. And we have a snowblower that I have never, bless my husband, had to use in, the 5 years we've had it. And I called him on the phone. I got a lesson in how to turn it on and how to use it. And I went over and I snowblowed her driveway because that's the person I want to be. She's out there shoveling by choice, but I'm half her age. I'm more than capable of helping. And to me, that's a kindness hero. I'm not doing it for accolades. I'm not doing it for pats on the back. I'm doing it because that's what makes me feel good about me when I go to bed at night. And that's how you live your life as a kindness hero.
And so I assume, when you're a mother, you set an example for your kids when you're kind to others. Is this how we teach our children then a little bit more about what it is to be a kind person?
I think so. I'm not a mother myself, but all of my friends that are tell me that, no matter what lessons they try and, air quote, teach their children, what their children learn is what they see. So when their kids see mom, burning out or running herself ragged, they're going to learn and internalize that that's what they have to do, either for love or for belonging or for recognition. But if they see mom, being successful and enjoying her life, not snapping at dad or mom when they come home at night, not snapping at the kids for homework, and really being able to be present with the family, the kids are going to internalize that lesson too.
So I love this because what you're saying then is when we're kind to ourselves, it's so much easier to be kind to others and not resent how much we give.
Yeah.
But if you look at our world today, there's not a lot of kindness heroes out there. You look at the rise in cyberbullying has been scary, and social media is a pretty wild west place anymore. And this, especially the last couple of years, the hate crimes, the kids, taking guns into the schools. Mm-hmm. Our society is fast losing its grip on kindness. What can we do aside from being kindness heroes, aside from teaching our children kindness? How can we spread the message even wider?
I think it comes down to the little actions. For me, it all comes down to what you do every day is how you live your life. So, every day you impact people that you don't even know. You might smile at a stranger in a grocery store, and that might be the only human, kind contact they have had all day. You may chat up a cashier that's having a bad day that's going to impact everybody else in his line for the rest of the day. You may let someone go in front of you. I was at the grocery store the day before the snowstorm this week, and I saw a woman in front of me let several people in front of her, and she offered to let me go in front of her because I had a small order. And little things like that, she doesn't know that it's 3 days later and I'm now talking to a complete stranger about that thing that she did in the grocery store. The little things that we do touch people more than we know. And you're so right. The world is a mess right now. And it's all the more reason for me to show up in this way and to be kind to people that, just for no reason other than that's who you want to be.
So you have just come out with a book. It came out in January 2018, Practical Kindness. And this was a project you'd wanted to do for some time. Tell us about your book.
It is. It's when I was pulling it together, I found a document from 2016 with notes on what I would do for this book. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, it is 52 ways to bring more courage, compassion, and kindness into your world. And it's really designed to be very digestible, very simple, weekly bite-sized doses of kindness. There's 4 sections in the book. There's 4 seasons in the year. It's very aligned with just the flow of life. And you don't have to start on January 1st. You can start on, May 14th or any day that you feel right. There's sections that you might want to go back to. There's exercises, there's practical things, there's just things to make you think, and really just different ways to start developing your own really small, bite-sized, manageable kindness and self-kindness lifestyle.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to get your own copy of the book or find out how you can work with Lara personally, we've got a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Lara. That's yourbrilliance.org/LARA. Thank you, Lara, for being on the show. And we are coming to the end. I wanted to know if you had any last message you'd like to leave our viewers with.
I would say if all of this sounds like it's soft and fluffy and, a good friend of mine said, well, don't corporations only care about the bottom line, that I will just ask that you take a leap of faith and think about the smallest way that you can start to think about these things and start to implement kindness into your work, into your personal life. Don't trust me. Find out for yourself. Give it a try. Very small, tiny little way.
Fantastic. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.